So we're back down here with the 66 Comet. If you remember the other day we had it running and it would idle good, but it kind of didn't want to take gas. It just didn't run really well. So we kind of looked into the distributor and stuff, and the advance isn't working and stuff like that. And we probably could take it apart and all, but right here, we just meant to do this for now. This doesn't pan out, we still got the old one to fix. But let's go ahead and get the cap off of this, and that way we can just see what it looks like inside and see if that center shaft has any play in it. So I unhooked a couple plug wires there to get that cap back out of our way. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it down there on the bottom. You don't be able to see it. But there's a bolt down there, and there's a clamp that holds the distributor in place. That way it doesn't turn. So our next thing is going to be get that bolt off of there. But here, let's just see what we got here for.
It'll come off.
I'm just looking for play in the shaft.
Got a little divot and a button on top.
Yeah, and the cap probably. I mean, the cap's not real terrible. Now, before we go on about this, what we need to do, there's two options here. We can take number one, plug out, roll it up, and get it on top dead center, number one. Or, what I think we're going to do is just put this rotor back on the right way, maybe. That's the way it went, yeah. And then you can take and mark where this is pointing. And that way, when you put the new distributor in, if that rotor is pointing in the same direction, you're good to go.
You also want the housing to be in the same
Yeah,
direction.
you want the housing to
Pointing.
be. So the other problem we're having is a lot of this stuff in here that does the advance is all froze up. And what'd you say it was, 69 bucks for a distributor?
Yeah.
So, you know, instead of spending time, we're just gonna put a distributor in it and go from there. I'll just move the bolt. Oh man.
I'm not even sure I can get on it.
Now he did, this is all wet under here and all, because he did try to wash a lot of the stuff off of here. You want to look before you pull the distributor out and kind of make sure there's not a bunch of dirt and crud don't fall down in the hole.
Really, I can't get it.
Tight.
Oh boy. There it
Yes,
came.
you can. Now there is a little divot right here, and it's right on the edge of that divot, almost directly below the spark plug, number 2 plug, is where it's pointing. So when we put the new one in, we have to make sure it points there.
Get it, it's not coming.
We was just talking, you know, years ago, we would complain about, they had that bolt down there, we can't get to it and stuff. Man, that's still a breeze job compared to the new stuff and all them bolts and everything. They stick bolts in places that
The engineers don't care.
it's all about production and money.
You gotta squeeze it all under the hood.
Now you might be able to slide that thing back away from the distributor. You might not have to take that bolt all the way out.
Well, I think I got my wrench trapped in there now.
You know, when I first got them gear wrenches, them straight ones that would only go one way, I did that to myself a couple times, and I thought, hey man, it's time to learn a different trick because this ain't working out well.
Okay, I got it off. I gotta go tight again to get my wrench out. If I can only get my finger up on that nut. There. It's right there where I can't reach it. I can't turn the distributor either.
Froze in the block, maybe.
Yeah. It's taking forever. It is turning though.
You might not have to take it all the way out. You might just.
I tried sliding it back.
It don't slide right.
It doesn't slide.
It's a revolting development.
It is. It feels like it's almost against the bottom of the distributor.
I'm trying to help you, Todd.
You're not holding your tongue right or something. I can't. It stopped turning on me. It's against something, I think. I can't get it out.
Sledgehammer?
Yeah, dynamite.
I see you're using the open end this time.
Yeah, well, I can't get to...
I know the feeling, though. I've done that several times.
I can't get it.
Okay, intermission brake. A lot of the Fords used to stick. Now, if we can spin this whole housing in the distributor some, it'd be
There
easier
it
to get to
goes.
that bolt. It'll get us moving. I've had real troubles. I've had to break distributors out of Fords before. Can you get on this backside and push it over?
Grab that wire. Without messing something up too bad. It doesn't want to spin any further. It's getting something somewhere, I think. Oh, the bolt got to come out now.
Kind of see that bolt, the edge of it. So at least we got the distributor to move. That's a plus. We can ever get that little tab out of the way.
Laying in the bottom.
Yeah. So the distributor's turned a little bit. It's a little bit easier to get to. You can kind of see what you got here. This one's not slotted, but all this does is lays, see where that's cut out, that just lays on top of the distributor housing and holds it down in place in the block so it can't spin. We'll throw that out, we don't need that no more.
Yeah.
Once we blow it out. We're gonna take an air hose and blow around the base of that distributor just to try to get any loose dirt that might have got broke loose as I was taking the bolt out. You don't want a high resolution, so it's gonna roll. Surely there can't be nothing big, right?
I'd hope not. That's what the strainer and the oil
Yeah,
pump
the oil
for.
pump and the, or the
Yeah,
the
oil
filter.
filter.
Now you should be able to turn. Now watch. If you watch, if I can stay out of the way, it'll turn as it comes up. See it turning? So now we know it turned about that far. So if we start that rotor in on the new one, just past the distributor dipstick.
Is that where?
Yeah.
Is that where it came loose?
Yeah.
It's still.
So it quit turning, right? When we picked it up till it quit turning, and that's where we're gonna put the new one in, with the rotor pointing right out. See, it almost points to that dipstick tube, just right on the left side of it. So that's a starting point to put the distributor down in, and it'll turn over here to where it was when it goes down in. Now our next dilemma is see that there little nut on the coil. Right there. She's not wanting to turn real well. You gotta watch and see now the nut's turning without the stud. You might have to work that back and forth a couple times.
Yeah.
Because that stud is not really very structural. Is that what you'd say? It'll break off. How about putting it that way? It'll break off if you. turn it a few times like that, and you ought to be able to work it enough that you can get it out of there. Has that got the nut behind that one that you can
No.
hold? Some of them have a nut behind it that you can hold. That's nice, but
These kind break off.
yes. That's
Or this kind. There, it's gonna come.
the reason you got to do that because the wire from the negative side of the coil comes over here and goes to the points in the condenser. That's what makes the ground. The points is a path to ground. They open and close, and that's what makes the coil fire. And when the distributor turns, it pushes it out with the rotor to whichever cylinder you want to fire. Did you mark the wires, or was they already marked?
They're already marked.
Look at it, someone's marked it. 3 little markies here, 4 little markies, 5, 6. And this is what you get. They just pull right up out of there. See, look, this one's even got a oiler. But look how it's all
Full of rust.
rust. No one oiled it. So all this stuff here, that's part of the reason we didn't know what we was gonna get into, and for the price of the distributor. Cameras in the light. But all this plate down here, whenever it gets vacuum advanced, which you notice, this is a hard line that screws in. They're not rubber lines on these vacuum advances. But with all that vacuum plate and all being froze up, it was just easier to get a different distributor.
You get everything.
You get everything. Well, yeah. Well, how much was the points, condenser, and a cap?
I didn't even price any of that.
But wonder if that's aluminum cap or brass. Brass. I can see down inside there, they're brass. Because if you get the aluminum tip caps, they corrode really fast. But that's even a brass cap. So if you buy a cap, points, and condenser, you gotta at least be halfway there, huh?
I'm thinking.
Now they did put I just told you about the other vacuum. We're going to change that because it's not threaded no more. That's easy enough. Okay, here's where I forgot to turn the mic on the camera again. So we're showing you the oil hole. There's an oiler on there, and that new one just came with a plastic plug. You can buy those oilers. Generators had them and stuff like that also. Okay, here I'm pointing beside the distributor saying that's where you're going to put the rotor at. So whenever you drop the distributor in, that little spiral gear there, it'll turn it back to where we need to be, where we had it marked facing the engine there. You really should oil that gear and that little O-ring. Just don't put it down in there. Now, you put it in there and it turns. It hasn't dropped completely down yet because it's still sticking up on the oil pump drive a little bit. So here in a minute, we go ahead and we just crank the engine over one time with the key, and the distributor will drop right down in place. You can see here I'm moving the fan a little bit. We're trying to actually turn the engine just a little bit, maybe by hand, because just a little bit of turning, they'll usually drop right down in. So after a few minutes there trying to turn the engine by hand, we just bumped the key once and it went right down in. He's putting the hold down bolt back in right now. We'll put that bolt in there and just snug it down enough to where a little bit of resistance when it does turn, when you try to turn the housing, like to set the timing. So we started this thing up and it had a bad misfire. So here I'm pulling wires off the cap one at a time to see if we can tell which cylinder it really is missing. The microphone was turned off, but if you listen really good, you can hear the spark clicking sometimes. So I just thought that was kind of odd that it picked it up on the camera and the microphone wasn't even turned on. But anyway, we kept doing that. We found out that number 2 cylinder was the one, and he didn't get plugs or wires, but they had them at the parts store ready for us. So we leave here in a little bit and we go get some plug wires and plugs, and that seemed to take care of most of the miss. Now this is the hose for the vacuum advance. Both ends had a flared fitting on it. So one fits into the carburetor right there. Then it comes over and goes into that distributor. Now the new distributor has the little protrusion sticking out there that where you can just hook a rubber line to it. So what we did, we just ran a piece of that old line over there, cut it off, then went rubber vacuum line the rest of the way. See here, he's screwing the fitting in for that vacuum line. I'm holding the camera and I try to do this left-handed. Try to push everything underneath so it wasn't just throw it over top. Then we'll run this over there and hook it right to the distributor. Pull on it. Pull, pull, pull. Watch it get kinked up there. Good thing I did not melt it in the light, huh? Okay, so he's just gonna go ahead and tighten this up. And we'll have our vacuum advance line hooked back up for the distributor. He's using his one size fits all wrench. Yeah, it's a little long, but like I say, right now we're just worrying about trying to get this thing running, try to get it on the road so we can try to drive it and work some bugs out of it. We're still going to have to do a gas tank, which will probably be in the next video. I'm not sure about the fuel lines. We may have to run fuel lines. We still got some brake lines to do. I don't know if it'll be the next video or not, but one of these I got a little video I show a little bit more underneath the car what it looks like, the condition it's in. You can see we have it running there now. I wish I would have turned the microphone back on. So as we was putting in the spark plugs, we noticed that the two that came separate was the older style, just a black plug, not coated. And the newer ones in the box on the right there, the 4 of them, they was the coated plugs. That coating's something like an anti-seize. And whenever you put the spark plugs in, I think it's a little more for aluminum heads. You put the spark plugs in, that acts like an anti-seize, and it's also a release agent. So first time you take the spark plugs out, it lets the spark plug come out, and a little bit of that coating stays back to protect some threads. So like I say, we go ahead and gap all these spark plugs and put the spark plugs in. I'll speed a little bit of the video up here with no sound, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Which I think the next thing we do, we kind of look at the choke on the carburetor. So if you notice right here, he's also putting the spark plug wires on, the new ones. Kind of sort them out by length. And we're going to go ahead and move on. I think it's a heat riser tube for the choke that we look at next. Yeah, here I got my flashlight. Now that little hole you'll see right there I'm pointing into, that's where the heat riser tube sticks into the manifold. And see, they've cut it off. I got my finger on the end of it there now. It's supposed to carry hot air from the exhaust up into the choke. It is an electric choke, but it carries heat up there to help the choke warm up and make sure the choke comes open. Now this one I ain't sure. It still has choke problems, so we're going to have to look into that maybe in a different video. I think I'm going to go ahead and end this video here real shortly. Like I say, we still got a lot to do to this car. We got to look at the carburetor. We got to do some of the brakes. Just a bunch of things. We're not trying to restore the car. We're not trying to fix the car up as a daily driver. We're just wanting to make it solid and run. And then he's going to decide whether to keep it or sell it.